worship from us, it's true. But ultimately, I believe that's a good thing. They won't necessarily make the same mistakes we did. Not if you guide them, Cal. Not if you give them hope. Embodied within that hope is the fundamental belief in the potential of every person to be a force for good. That's what you can bring them. You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. They will race behind you. They will stumble. They will fall. But in time, they will join you in the sun, Cal. In time, you will help them accomplish wonders.
We wanted you to learn what it meant to be human first. So that one day, when the time was right, you could be the bridge between two peoples. Look. You can save all of them.
Let there be light. This is how we are from the future. This is how you will become the light of the world as we invoke the sacred imperative together. Let there be light. 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 And the holy light is with us now. And the angels of the Most High are with us now. And they are cleansing your heart and soul of any darkness, any anger, any frustration, any fury, any outrage, and replacing all of that with the love, fortified with the power of justice. For when love and justice are united in your heart and in your soul, it unleashes a power unstoppable in this world. And now this power of love surges through your heart and extends to every soul you are connected to. And through those souls extends to every soul they are connected to. And you are doing the holy work now of anchoring the holy light and the love of God in this world and in the hearts of all of those whom you touch. Now take a moment and reflect on the world as you would have it be, as you would like to see it. All of the injustice, all of the outrage, all of the violence. It doesn't have to be this way. If we can just call in that holy light to work miracles through us and to bring in the infinite love of our Creator into the world. For what the world needs right now is more love. It's just not enough love to go around, and you are a conduit for that love, and that love can surge through you and bless all of the world. Let there be light.
All right, welcome, Divine Ones. Let there be light. Let there be light. You're all light. And tonight we have magnificent light with us. We have the team from Americans in Action, Christo, Jason, Ananda, and also Brother Cohen as well. So let's bring them in. We have Ananda, Jason, Christos. There we go. There we go. Hi guys, how are you guys doing tonight?
I love it.
I love it.
That's awesome.
The horses are outside.
Nice.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, you guys look wonderful. I'm telling you, my heart is full.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Don't forget my name.
Buffalo Christo. That's hilarious. I love it. Oh my gosh, that's great. Oh,
Hey, Ananda
well,
will tell you
welcome.
we think I channeled Buffalo Bill at one time. Remember Ananda? Ananda?
Yeah, she's still there. She's just
Ananda.
got a connectivity thing. Buffalo Christo. That's beautiful, brother. That's beautiful. That's classic. Oh, that's classic.
And tonight this is whiskey. I have to play along. No, just kidding.
Well-
It's water.
Yeah, well, you know. That's great. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm grateful that you guys are back here with us again tonight for another session. of
Grateful to
American
be here.
Connection. Thank you. Thank you. Well, you know, I wanted to play that video. I've played it several times over the last year, and it's got a very powerful message about we are the light. Let us be light.
Yeah.
We're eternal light.
Yeah.
We are eternal divine beings with a divine destiny within all of us. For in the beginning, the Most High said, let there be light. Let there be light. He also said, let us make man in our own image as well. We're infinite divine beings. So, you know, I am grateful for each and every one of you. You are beautiful divine souls. And the knowledge and your wisdom that you impart and share with us is truly helping a lot of people in our country right now. We need it. There's a lot of static out there in this truther community right now. And that static is interrupting people's internal radar, if you will, their ability to discern. They've got so much static going on, and they don't know what to cling to. And that's why a lot of people feel out of sorts right now. And, you know, we're in this time where we are a brother's keeper, right? We've been going through on a spiritual level, the sifting of the wheats from the tare, that parable of the wheat from the tare. Well, we're in that literal sifting that is happening now. It's no longer the spiritual, it's literally taking place right now. And we are so blessed to be here to be able to help manifest heaven on earth. We have an amazing opportunity in front of us right here and right now. And there's Ananda. We'll pop her back in here. There you go. Hello, Ananda.
Hey. Hi, ML. Hi, Cohen. Hi, Christo. Hi, Jason. I was having connectivity issues, so I just did a quick reboot.
Those are interesting terms. I'm often told I have connectivity issues with a lot of people.
All you have to do is wear your magic coat.
Oh my gosh. He's got the tassels and everything. Love it. That is classic.
This is a real cowboy jack. Got this in Texas, indeed.
I just wore my Carhartt hat tonight because I forgot my cowboy hat.
That's all right. We like
It's
rednecks. We
actually
love them,
real
and we take them
cow.
in. We feed them whiskey.
You know, I have
You're
to
low
share
profile
something.
tonight, ML.
Well, you guys are beautiful. I'm telling you. I have to share something with you guys in our audience here.
Please.
So some years ago, specifically in 2012, well, it started in 2010, I started having divine experiences, parting the veil, and I was being ministered to by a certain archangel, Raphael. And I'd had 3 encounters with Raphael. I didn't know why, and I didn't know I was being prepared. But nonetheless, I was being kind of tutored, if you will. And in February 2012, I had a very profound experience with the Christ. I'm not saying Jesus. I had a profound experience with the Christ. And in that experience, much was revealed to me about me as well. But one of the things that I was left with after having my audience, is what we can say, I guess, with the Christ, was I had the ability after that point to be able to be in tune with creation in a way where I was able to, like, let's say, a leather sofa, a leather couch that was made out of a cow, right? I was able to put my hand on that leather furniture, and I was able to discern the length of creation of what that bovine went through before it became the finished product on the cow. I was able to feel the lifespan. Same thing with wood, you know. So anything that had creation that was created by the Most High, not by man like concrete, but real creation that had molecular cellular structure, I was able to feel the length of the longevity of that tree and everything it went through, and I was able to feel from start to finish what it went through. And it was a very profound experience to be able to be in tune with creation like that. It became really overwhelming for me until I started learning how to process that in a healthy way and not have it, you know, overwhelm me, so to speak. And so I'm really careful about when it comes to things of creation. You know, it's so your jacket, brother. I love your jacket. It's beautiful. It really is. But I don't take things for granted like I used to prior to that experience. I value things at a different level as it relates to all creation itself. And so I just wanted to share that because I think that is one of these profound experiences as we raise our vibration and our consciousness into the Christ consciousness, where we start manifesting these abilities to think and feel as the Christos race does, and things of that nature as well. And that we as mortals, we have the ability to have those experiences, profound experiences, and way more than that. So I wanted to share that with everybody, you know,
that's awesome.
You know,
may I share a few things about Christ?
Yes, please do.
First of all, in my research, not Google or Webster's, you ain't going to find the truth there. What does Christ mean? What's the definition of Christ? And what I found was it means natural. So when you have reached a Christ conscious person, he's in his or she's in her natural consciousness. We must be aware that the consciousness we're in right now, for the most part, is not natural. All of our Christ abilities and characteristics, they're with us, but they're hidden because of conditioning that we have had and agreements that we make known, but mostly unknown. It is said that once Christ consciousness is hidden in a really, really clever spot in the darkness we are. It's embedded in the darkness to hide it away from us. So one has to have the courage on a spiritual journey to confront where we are a no, N-O, where we close down. When we say to ourselves, this is too much, I don't want to feel this emotion, that emotion, and we close down, and that is what the veil is. So in the Christ conscious entity or person, excuse that word, people, what is Christ? What is the experience when one taps into the Christ? Now, I'm just going to share my experience, and probably you guys, most of you guys have done it as well. And the experience is no thought. The experience is close. You can close say that if you've ever been underwater for a period of time where it's real quiet and it feels liquid, that's a close experience of the transcendence. What does that mean to transcend? Transcend the illusion, transcend third dimension, transcend the physical, transcend the thinking mind. Forget thoughts are physical. They're part of the third dimension illusion. And to most of us, it's not an illusion because we have agreement it's real. But when you tap into the Christ conscious, you can see yourself like you've never seen yourself before. That's the healing state. And a lot of people call it delta state, or sometimes they even call it, misname it, alpha or whatever. But it is something that is achieved by telling yourself the truth. Because most of us lie to ourselves. And we're so used to doing it, we have no idea we're doing that. So that's the trick. That's the rub there. Christ consciousness is available to each and every one of us. And all you have to do is do the work. And so it's an amazing thing. Now, some of us, we have been born in various areas of what is known as an avatar, meaning we have no conditioning in that area. And that's where you can say, oh my God, that guy over there, that woman over there is a genius in this area, because genius and Christ consciousness marry together. You hit genius in this third dimension, you have a great opportunity to tap into your Christ. Anyway, that's through my research. I love that it exists. I love that I had an opportunity to share that. And yeah, what do you think about that, ML?
I agree wholeheartedly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. You know, cool. So the smartest man recorded on Earth had an IQ of 200. Stephen Hawking had an IQ of 180. All right. So don't ask me how to quantify this, but some individuals that are very highly evolved spiritual beings, shall we say, shared with me that the Christ, not God's source prime creator, but the Christ has an IQ of 1600 if you were going to put it on a scale. And so I'd ask them, well, if the Christ have the IQ of that, then what would the Most High IQ be? Of course, you know, we have no way to quantify that because everything is created, so it's off the charts. Let's just put it that way. So, but I just thought, put things into a little perspective. That shows you that we have divine DNA in us, and science tells us we utilize only 2 strands, that we have 10 strands of junk DNA is what we utilize. Well, God doesn't make junk in anything, plain and simple. When the Christ came here, and there were 3 Christs that came here during a certain time period, there's been many Christs that have served and come to man and ministered to man. We have Christ among us here as well. So when the Christ came at a previous time, they came to help man or humanity to activate those other 10 strands of the divine DNA within them. Part of that activation was when they performed the miracles, and they were showing as an example what humans, divine humans, could accomplish themselves, because they all said, greater things ye shall do than I have even done myself. Greater things. And in the Bible, because that's what people like to utilize as their litmus test, in the Bible, only a minuscule of miracles were ever, given to us. When you start studying other supportive scriptures outside of the composite that we have of the Bible, you start seeing there was a broad spectrum of miracles that have been kept from us. And the reason why is it would give us greater insight as to what the Christ did while here ministering. And not only that, the followers of Christ were starting to replicate those miracles by tapping into their divine DNA as well. Those have been kept from us. They don't want us to know those things, to keep us
100%.
minimalized and marginalized in our own thinking.
Yeah. It's so true.
Looks like we lost Ananda. She's got a bad connection apparently, so she'll bounce back in here as well.
Yeah, she will.
Yeah. So, Cohen, I resonate with Cohen really well because his name, Cohen, and of course, Jason. So, Jason, I actually know some gentlemen who were going to rabbinical school, and they got to a certain point, and they started having other profound experiences with the Christ, which kind of changed their course of going, And I'm reminded of it was probably 8 or 9 years ago, there was a book that was written, and it had to do with this rabbi in Jerusalem. And he was like the patriarch rabbi over the rabbinical schools, apparently. And I can't remember his name. I could have sworn his first name was Itzhak, if I remember right. But anyways, he was fairly old when he passed away. He was like 100 and something when he passed away. But he had written in his memoirs 2 profound experiences, prophetic experiences, as it relates to our current time. And he'd written those in his memoirs only to be disclosed after his death. So his sons, they did that. They shared the contents in the memoir that this patriarch rabbi had. And one of those experiences was the rabbi had a personal encounter with Messiah, a one-on-one encounter with the Messiah, and he learned the identity of the Messiah himself. And it kind of shook the foundation of the rabbinical schools and society, because it's not what they were being taught. It profoundly shook them.
Yeah.
And part of this prophecy, he was talking about when Messiah would return. He didn't say when he would come the first time. He said when Messiah returns is what he put in his memoir, right? He said there would be an event that would happen, and he said the lion will go to sleep, and that would be like a marker in time of a precursor of when Messiah would return to humanity. And so they thought, lion would go to sleep? What does that mean? Well, so the prime minister, Ariel Sharon, had collapsed and went into coma. And he was in a comatose state for like 9 or 10 years, a fairly lengthy time, right? Well, he passed away, I don't know. It was something like 2 or 3 years after this rabbinical patriarch had passed away. What's fascinating is his name that was given to him was the Lion of Israel, because he was the general that led Israel into the 6-day war and won it, right? So when he passed away, that's what the prophecy that was given to this rabbi was that he will pass away, then shortly after that, the Messiah will return. That is amazing.
It is.
That's beautiful.
Quite a story. Hey, Jason, what do they talk about in the Kabbalah or in any of your studies of what would be Christ conscious?
Well, first of all, howdy, ML.
Howdy, partner.
Going. So when you get into Kabbalistic studies and when you get into ancient rabbinical studies, you end up going back to they'll steer away from Yeshua the Christ and say that, okay, Yeshua the Christ was a great rabbi. However, he reached and attained a certain consciousness. In my studies, they won't necessarily say Christ consciousness, but they'll say an awakened state. They'll say a Kabbalistic state when you talk about the 10 Sefirot, which aligns to the 10 chakra systems or 12 chakra systems, but the tree of life is aligned in every single Sefirot. When you look at the Kabbalistic studies, every single Sefirot is a pyramid. And it is a triad from the forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then all the way down to Adam and Eve and Noah and all the interims. And it comes together to create this tree of life, of which they call the Sefirot, which is a microcosm, or it's a macrocosm of your own individual awakening. And so with your own individual awakening, you return to what you would call Hashem Echad. When I was living in Israel and studying to be a rabbi as well, I was blessed to go on to many, many journeys that you're not really supposed to go on unless you're called to go on those journeys. And many different angels would guide me to those different journeys where I were able to discover many different things, which, like Yitzhak, the rabbi that you were talking, and my Hebrew name is also Yitzhak, which is a beautiful thing that you'd bring that up. But it led me to a greater spiritual awakening, right? A deviation from anything that was religion. And one of the conversations I would have as I was traveling through Jerusalem with a random rabbi who you see once and then you never see him again, he was saying at the end of the days, there is no religion. There is no more Judaism. There's no more Catholicism. There's no Christianity. There's nothing. All there is the Lord God I am. And the I am is what we would talk about, which is as close to them actually saying Christ consciousness from my journeys as opposed to literally saying the Christ consciousness, but that you would say the natural state of being. But what I have found in my journeys is, the truth is the truth. As Christo would say, it's not your opinion, my opinion, or anything like that. It's undeniable. It's indebatable. It is the absolute. So I like to use the analogy that of those who are on a truth path, no matter where they are on the planet or in the universe, they will meet at the same place. So the mountaintop is the truth for this metaphor. And if your pathway to the peak of the mountain is through Judaism, Buddhism, whatever your religion is, Hinduism, if you're on a truth path, that path will automatically take you to the peak where the truth is, where we're all celebrating as the Mashiach consciousness, which is defined as anointed one, which is your awakened state where the Sefirot are aligned and the Christ consciousness is aligned. And then when you look at all the different sacred geometry that basically illustrates the Sefirot, you see that it's a endless Magen David or Sri Yanka or Sri Chakra. It's all the same, and we are aligned wholeheartedly in the truth, where we become what we would say is I am Hashem Echad. One thing, and I'll wrap it up with this, is when I was going through Israel, I had a very good friend and many, many amazing experiences, spiritual sci-fi experiences that I'm sure many of your audience and everybody here on this call can relate to. But he would say the greatest meditation that you can do, a Kabbalistic meditation that you can do, just walking all day, is just Hashem Echad. And what that translates to is God is one, or Spirit is one. And when you just do that, I am one, or God is one, Hashem Echad, and you raise like a chant in your mind, in your consciousness, that you pop into a higher state of consciousness where you literally see that everything is a reflection, and you can say, I am that, or I am, and then you start having really higher experiences of connecting into the reality that God is one, which is the highest prayer in Judaism, is the Shema. And it says God is one in that prayer. So the closest to Christ consciousness, they wouldn't use the word Christ consciousness, but they would describe the same thing, but with their own languages and their own Hebrew and their own experiences through Kabbalistic studies and implementation of.
Yeah, it's so interesting when we speak of languages and everything. The reason that languages was created, so many languages, is to separate us. Because in the very beginning, we had more of a telepathy, image communication, and it was universal. And ML will have to share with you our experience that we had or have
with the sheriff
continuous of the Pleiades. And you want me to share it a little bit?
Let me do something real quick.
Okay.
In honor of Yom Kippur.
Yes.
You know.
Ah, yeah.
The shofar, the ram's horn.
Okay. That wasn't very good. My apologies. Well. There we go.
Awesome. Beautiful. Beautiful.
I usually blow that fairly often on the four corners of my property, and you know, I love it because it resonates. Seems like miles. You can hear it. It's the frequency from that heavenly instrument. So I had to do that in honor of Yom Kippur. But brother, please.
Yeah, we have a similar experience with have didgeridoos. And the sound from that is so healing. It is pretty amazing. And we have one guy, Clark, who he's been with us from the get-go, and he plays a brilliant didgeridoo. And you talk about transcendence. Oh my goodness!
Wow.
So thank you for playing that. That is very, very. I'm just very grateful with it. The sound is amazing. So the Pleiades, yes, everybody knows where that is. Everybody hear of the planet Maladek. So we had a bit of a group transcendence. And the story was told that Maladek, we were all on Maladek, very advanced beings, 5th, 6th, 7th dimension. And the same darkness that's here on this planet came to that planet, and we wouldn't have any part of it. And so what he did is he actually blew the planet up with radiation. The overlord there actually saved 144,000 of us. And we came to this planet, and our bodies were so light because of the gravity, they blew up. So they went over to Mars and built some pyramids, which were really stations to decelerate. And that was going to work pretty well, except for the temperature there wasn't conducive to life itself. And so what happened is that we came back there with the concept of the pyramids, and then we went through the pyramids, and our bodies were able to exist here on the planet. And we feel that the first pharaoh which we got a name from this Christ conscious person of Rata Bin. And they became known as the Egyptians in there. And we were all there, actually. We were there and we were working, living. And we, in that lifetime, those lifetimes, we lived to be about 500, 1,000 years old, because we weren't conditioned that the bodies lasted for 70, 80 years. And in actual fact, what happened was that he said, I know that I'm going to forget where I came from. Would you please remind me? Because all of us, if you have an inkling that you were from the Pleiades, probably part of us, part of this group. And what happened is that in that, we said, yes, of course we'll remind you. And so he actually got very, very old, and he started to get very, very crotchety. And he said, I know I forgot something. What was it? Would you remind me? And when we started to remind me, he got very upset, and he put us out into the desert. And they were known as the Nanda, what was the names of the people that went to the desert?
The Essenes.
The Essenes. And so, anyway, I thought that story was fascinating, because this lifetime, we're running into people like ML and Cohen and, Cheryl and Debbie and what have you. And it seems...
Laura in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh my God, it's the seventh dimension lords that actually are still here on the planet. And we chose to come back this lifetime for this very reason of now to hold a greater light for all of humanity and do whatever is necessary to bring back the Lord, to bring back the kingdom of heaven, to actually bring the light to that dark. And of course, the dark won't exist anymore. And I'm hoping and praying that we experience this transfer back into fourth dimension on this planet in our lifetime. And so that's just the cliff notes of the whole story, but I thought it was really amazing. I know when I was experiencing that, I was crying my eyes out. And so that's sort of my, when you get that feeling inside of that knowing and being, it's just really amazing. It's just amazing. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that. Did you want to add anything to that, Ananda?
Oh, I'm grateful.
I do.
Yes, Ananda.
I wanted to prompt you or encourage you. What happened when it was time for the Essenes to remind Rata Bin of what he had forgotten?
What's your question? I'm sorry.
There's a little more to the story that I love, and I want to prompt you. What happened when the Essenes, when it was time to go and remind Rata Bin?
Well, actually, so many of us were the high priest and high priestesses there. And so when Rata Bin said, I know I forgot something. I'm like 2,000 years old. And, what is it I forgot? I think that did I tell you to remind me? And you go, yes, you did. So we're going to remind you. Are you ready? Yes, I am. Okay, pranayam. What? The beginning lesson of remembering pranayam. I will not do that. Got so upset, banished us into the desert. Is that what you wanted to hear, Ananda?
Yeah, that was the part. I thought it was so significant, because that's the veil here in the third dimensional realm. When we get that veil and we forget where we came from and who we are. He was an overlord, and he had forgotten who he was, and asked his beloved family to remind him. And when they did, he banished them to the desert. And then we were known as the Essenes. But that's how complicated this matrix is. So for anyone who's pushed through the veil to remember or even catch a glimpse of memory, to know who you are, surround yourself with those of like mind and like heart, because we're all here to help to remind each other when we forget, because the veil, that's a real thing here. So, and we're going to have those blinders on, and we need to rely on each other to help us with our blind spots, so to speak. So that's what we're all doing. We do understand, everyone here understands about unity consciousness, and to put things of the deepest, most sacred nature, like love and the essence of the soul. And we put that before personality, because, you know, personalities can rub people wrong. But when you catch the essence of who someone is, their spirit, that is undeniable. And so we do need to live forgiveness as a way of life. And that is, it was the way, it is the way, and it will continue to be the way, but we have to apply it. And it's a tough one because, you know, there's a lot of betrayal. Everyone's been betrayed. And so we have to just get over these humps and learn how to work together. So it's an, oh my God, it's such an exciting time. And I love it. And I just drop in so easily with all of you beautiful souls here, because everyone here is on the same wavelength. So that's a celebration.
And the room.
Well, that is beautiful. Go ahead, Christo.
Oh, no, I was just making a jest there because we were silent for a second or two. And I said, and the room went quiet. Which is actually a great sign because we're integrating what was said as opposed to talking over it. I thought that was great. You know, that's another thing that we really become conscious of, and we remind each other every day. The mind is going so much 24 hours a day, even when the body is sleeping. And it's like that interrupts the energies that we know of as love. And so to quiet the mind, of course, has been an ancient teaching in so many circles of spirituality. And it's really, really powerful and really true. So we all, in serious and genuine prayer and meditation, should be able to reach that quiet mind. And that's what I call when I am in God's arms. I mean, we always are, but the real experience of it is that transcendence where nothing else exists. And it's, you know, on planet Earth, we are always searching to become something, to go after something. And that conditioned teaching is what adds to the veil. In the circles of spirituality that we have lived, are living, and have researched and studied, is that we say we need to become nothing. And what that means is that, again, anything physical is third dimension illusion. Thoughts are physical, third dimension illusion. And so when you quiet the mind, not putting in any more thoughts to block the energies open up and you transcend the third dimension. So it is so spectacular. That's what should be achieved in like drumming circles if you do that, or group meditation if you do that, talking and sharing about truths. You start to transcend. The mind starts to quiet. You can tell when truth is in your audience because the mind starts to have a hard time thinking. It's like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. You know, It goes back to our natural state. And it's funny, we're talking about this in this way. It's the first time we really went this deep on this, because this is the consciousness where your forms that we deal with in the human journey has its power. It has its power from the foundation of the love that you allow yourself to be in, even when you're in court. That's the most important time. Because often fear would overcome you, and fear is the opposite of love. And so we should always, every day, work toward being in that no thought state and being in the allowance and we call it the yes attitude. Because yes brings us to the truth, and no brings us to the death.
Wow. That's profound.
And in the yes, that means energetically, emotionally. Like if somebody comes to me and says, okay, go and jump off that building, I'll be a yes to that, not in the performance of it on the outside journey, but the performance of it in the inside journey, and feel the energies of what that is all about, what that is. Because I feel that you can't think about healing, you can only experience it energetically. And that's the beauty of all. And so when we do our repudiation workshops, and the workshops involving trust law, that's where we get to if everyone is a yes to that. And the whole group starts to transcend, or at least go toward the transcendence. And you can feel the whole energy of the room change. Do you hear that, Debbie?
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, all right, I'm going to do this. I queued this up for us. There we go.
Whoa.
Asking you shall receive. So here is a plug for an amazing event that we're going to be participating in this month on October 29th and 30th in Des Moines, Iowa. We have Christo, Ananda, Jason, and I believe there's one more person from your team,
Maddie,
that's going to be there. Maddie.
Yeah.
So this is your Correcting Your Status Masterclass. And this is going to be an amazing event because what you guys, our audience here, are feeling and hearing from us right now is a small part of what you're going to actually feel when you're in the presence over the weekend. This is an amazing opportunity because I know that sovereignty, and this flyer is on my Telegram channel. I share it multiple times throughout the day, and I'm happy to send it out to other individuals as well. But sovereignty, as I explained to, my audience, the Most High God gave us our sovereignty. Our sovereignty is eternal. It can't be taken from us. It's encoded in our divine DNA. That's what makes us divine, God, I am present, creations, creator, okay? But because we were born here into this plane of existence, we lost our way in that sense of how do we reclaim that sovereignty again? Well, there's several steps. We can go through this process and do the physical part of our sovereignty. But as I tell everybody, sovereignty is a whole approach. When you're reclaiming that sovereignty, we have to do it spiritually, emotionally, physically, not just on paper and documentation wise. That's what it means to become a sovereign person. And so when I interact with individuals that have flipped that switch where I want to become a sovereign person, they automatically know that they have to change their whole life. They have to change their wholeness at that point in juncture. And they want to. They have that desire to do it. So at these workshops, these are what you guys are going to feel and experience. You will have a transcendent experience in these workshops, because it's hard. I mean, if you can feel a small part of the spirit that we're conveying in this message through these shows, imagine being in a room for 2 days, the overflowing of that love through that spirit of what you're going to feel in those seminars. You know, also, I have talked to Debbie, and so Friday night before the event, we're going to do a meet and greet at a location there in Des Moines as well. So I know there's a lot of people that want to meet us and visit, and I would love to do that. And I'm actually thinking about doing a live show from that meet and greet as well. So I'm excited about this. This is just, I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for this opportunity.
It has its way of producing miracles, because we feel that all of us are doing God's work. We love God so much. I love saying that. I love God. I love God. I love God. And in that, and I know some people have an issue with the word God, but it's get over it. Okay, so
and I'd like to share something as well.
Okay.
So this is where I write my experiences, my very special experiences, so that I have them to be able to hand down to my progenitors. Okay.
That's awesome.
So
that's good. It's so good to have a diary. That's good.
Yeah. Well, this took place just a few years ago on September 11th, 2019. And September 11th really is it's a divine date. Let's just put it that way. Seems to be a date where very profound things happen, not only from the dark side, shall we say, but from the heavenlies side as well. But this was an experience that I had in the middle of the night, because most of the time I'm up throughout the middle of the night. I don't sleep continuously through the night. I'm up. I'm always going outside, looking up into the heavenlies, communicating. This is when I start having my experiences during that time period. And this particular night, I had an experience with the Christ again. But this was a message that the Christ wanted me to share. So when the Christ came to me, he said, my sweet ELIAS, don't you know me? He said, the world has become such a frightening place. So much anger and not enough love. Deep in the hearts of so many people, there's an emptiness that nothing of this world can fill. And that emptiness makes it impossible for them to love. So I said to him, Lord, it's so overwhelming. What should you have me do? He then counseled and gave me instruction. He said, my sweet ELIAS, remind them that I love them, that I died for them. Tell them that my love for them is real. It's absolute. And that if they open their hearts to it, I will fill that emptiness so that they will be able to love one another again. That's the message.
That's so
beautiful. It
beautiful.
hasn't changed. Tell them, ELIAS. Tell them. So it's easy to get distracted with everything that's going on in our world right now. It really is.
It is true.
And as I always say, there are 3 persons that you should always be able to count on, and that you can always count on. God, the Most High, Creator, Source, whatever term you want to use, Christ, and yourself.
Yeah.
Man will always let you down, but those 3 persons will not. And I know it's a hard thing for people to accept that, because people feel like they let themselves down all the time. Those are just opportunities to grow and learn.
That's so beautiful. We have a saying that I think that is very true. Love is a choice. You need to choose love, especially in dire situations, or when you feel the words, the bad feelings are coming in. Love is a choice, because love is what we are. We're in the image and likeness of God Almighty. Love, the highest truth. So be it always. So that's yeah, it's and you know what's beautiful? It's like sessions like this, we all get to remind each other. And I'm sure that's a lot of us were going, oh my God, I needed that. I'm sure you hear that all the time, ML. And it's so true. It's so true. Even when we have meetings with the 5 or 6 Americans in Action, and we say our prayers and we communicate the truth, is we often get higher in the kite. And a lot of our inspiration added to our research is where we get a lot of this amazing information. It certainly comes from the Lord, it comes from God. And it's like, you just have to be open and pay attention to it, because that is so real. And the more that you're active in God consciousness, in Christ consciousness, the more real it becomes. It's like, almost like a muscle, you know? You got to work it. You got to put attention in it. You got to put genuineness in it. And then, of course, do our work in being a yes and allowing the energies at hand. That is the healing right there. There's another saying that, you know, of course, in war, in conflict, you're not going to have any kind of no mind loving state. So we have a saying of, if there's any kind of tension or anything going on with any situation, agree with the other side. Just agree. Allow them their viewpoint, because it's valid, because it's theirs. Mm-hmm. And you know, you don't have to agree with it to live it, but agreeing with it is granting the person, the people, beingness. It's so important that we grant each other beingness, because each and every one of us is the image of God. So if God was standing in front of you, how would you act? So there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There it is.
So
Cohen, I want Cohen to jump in here, because
I was just going to say that. Good.
He plays like, I'm just sitting here, but you know, Cohen is a very spiritual person. First of all, I mean, Cohen, I mean, that's not his real name, but it is his divine spiritual name nonetheless, because of the spiritual work that he was engaged in. Well, when I did a show on Sunday night, I was kind of given a play-by-play of the origins of our universe, and us as divine human beings, and Lucifer, Satan, and all these different entities. So I broke things down over a 2-hour period, but I also talked about the Melchizedek. And Cohen, you know, I know a little bit about Melchizedek, and so, you know, because I used to belong to the Holy Order of the Priesthood of Melchizedek as well. So, but Cohen, he, you know, it touched him, and so that's another thing of connection that Cohen and I have together as well. You know, Cohen is like unassuming. He's just sitting there, you know. He's got like, he just looks like he's a Nazarene there. He's got the long, flowing, beautiful mane and the beard and stuff like that. And I'm follically challenged now, you know, stuff.
He's looking more and more like Yeshua than ever.
Yeah,
ever.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. And so he's just sitting there. So it's like that, you know, he knows a lot more than what he's letting on. But what a lot of people don't know is that Cohen served our country honorably in the Air Force. he actually trained our military to survive and provide them skill sets to be able to survive in certain situations itself. So Cohen developed a skill set of survival that is very well, even today is needed, that he's able to help transcend and teach people that survival, if you will. But Cohen, jump in here, brother. I mean, we want to hear from you.
I'm just enjoying, I really sense, just even in this form of communication, the presence of God and the love. And so I'm just kind of a little wrecked in that presence right now, and I'm just enjoying that. So I'm not drinking, I promise, but I am. I'm just basking in love. That's shortly awesome. After our last one this week, last get together, I went to sleep that night, and many of my dreams were in your presence, Christo, and I was, you were teaching me, and that morning, afternoon, I couldn't get at the desk and do anything. I was not ready to be in normal life, so I took my yoga mat out in the woods, and I just lay down for several hours. And you were talking earlier this evening about going into the darkness and not resisting that place. And one of the things that I became aware of in a really profound way the other day during that experience was that you teach accept. When you accept an offer, that's a legal term, and it requires a meeting of the minds. And when God loves us to such a depth where it's not work for him to forgive us our trespasses, but it's who he really is, and he just loves it. It just fills him with joy when his children turn to him. He's moved emotionally when we experience him, and he wants us to experience that with him. But we have to have a meeting of the minds. We have to come to a place where we can love and see that love for ourselves that he has for us, when we can accept that. Because when we accept that love, we can accept that forgiveness. We have the capacity now to offer that love and experience as well back to him. And when we offer that love and that gratitude back to him, we can't help but be that also to the I am that's in you, and the I am that's in my enemy. And that forgiveness that would completely stop this train wreck that we're on. If we immediately let go of all of the liabilities that we think have been done to us, and we're blind to our own part in it, and if we were to immediately let go of all of those trespasses and all of those hurt feelings and grudges, and if we could forgive it, we could let go of all of the attachments that are holding us into this lower dimension, this lower three-dimensional reality of slavery, captivity. And so that's what I share is because I want to honor you, Christo, because you were a part of that experience with me, and you confirmed it again just talking about it today. So it was like, well, that wasn't an accident, because it was the very thing that you led off with was the same lesson that I was learning this week. So I honor you, and I honor love. And I honor
you, Cohen. Thank you so much. Have you discovered what the name Cohen stands for?
So it's an interesting story, and I'm always grateful for more insight. So please teach me. But this was a name that was given to me back in 2015. I had a similar experience as all of you have described. It was on my bed at night, but I was not dreaming. It was a very real experience, and I was in the presence of a host, and that host was championing souls that were struggling through the darkness to connect with the light. And they were experiencing lots of trauma and trials in this process. In the echoing, resounding sound that was being declared over them, championing them in their quest for truth, was Aliyah Cohen. Aliyah Cohen, and the whole heavenlies just resonated with this cry, Aliyah Cohen. And I woke up declaring Aliyah Cohen. I'd never heard those words. So I had to discover what they meant. And I knew it was Hebrew. And so that's where I started. And Aliyah is it's a returning to a sacred place for a sacred purpose, a priestly purpose. So if you're in the synagogue, it's moving up to the front to read the scriptures, and that's the journey of Aliyah. If you are outside of the nation of Israel and you are returning for one of the feasts, that journey, that pilgrimage back to Israel is Aliyah. And if you are in Israel, you return to Jerusalem, the holy city. That journey also can be referred to as Aliyah. But it's making an appearance that is more than just traveling, but it's for a divine purpose. And this is the lesson that I have been learning through this, because when I first heard that, I did some research and I kind of understood what that meant. But as I've learned more things and as I put pieces together, I realized this is the very journey that we are all on, is making appearance in the place where we actually have our rightful citizenship, which is in the heavenlies. It's not the three-dimensional, but it's the heavenlies. That's where we have citizenship. And until we appear there, in that place where we really are, all of us aligned, all of us connected, all parts of us functioning, present, and fully attuned to our identity, that's where we are able to function as the Christ consciousness. It's not until we establish first our position and our standing in that place, and the jurisdiction there is love.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to say anything about that, Jay?
Oh, Baruch Hashem, yes. So very good. Very good. So who were the Kohanim?
Kohanim.
Who were the Kohanim?
So they were the Levitical priesthood out of the order of Aaron, from his lineage. They're priests.
Right.
And
there were two orders: the Melchizedek and the Aaronic. That's right.
Not only were they priests, but we'll add to this. So Aliyah. So the truth is the truth, right? There's so much with the language there. And Christo was beginning this conversation about the high priests, were supposed to be the advisors or the assistants of counsel, if you will, to the Pharaoh. The Kohanim are the highest priests of Judaism, of ancient Hebrews.
That's right.
The Kohanim,
That's right.
at the temple, Solomon's temple, the remaining at the Kotel, before anybody, Yeshua ben Yosef, any of them, could walk into the temple, the ones that were at the altar, the holiest of holies, the Kodesh of the Kodesh is called, was God and then the Kohanim. As a matter of fact, before anybody could enter into, and they still do this to this day, before anybody could enter into the temple or read from the Torah, you said it's an aliyah. Aliyah, really, if you want to know how it translates even more, is to go up. But if you take it even higher, it's to transcend. It's to ascend into a higher consciousness. The Kohanim were the ones, before anybody could go up to the Torah and read from the Torah, the Kohanim bless the entire congregation. The Kohanim bless all of the Israelites. The Kohanim bless everyone of the land. As a matter of fact, when you go to a synagogue, the rabbinical, the rabbi, whatever, before they do anything, is there any Kohanim in the house? Because we're about to read from the Torah. And if there's a Kohanim in the house, it is his duty based on the covenant to go up to the Torah and bless the sacred words, the sacred Torah, through a specific blessing called an aliyah. So what happens is the Kohanim will come up with their talit, and they'll raise their talit over their head, and they'll do a bracha. A bracha in Hebrew translates to a blessing. And not only will they bless the Torah, but then they will turn around with their talit over their head, like so, and bless the entire congregation. Now they do a thing with their hand. Did you ever watch Star Trek with Spock? That Spock was a Jew. He brought that to the character because that's the Kohanim blessing.
That's right.
So when they're blessing and their hands are over underneath the talit, they are making their hand just like you and ML just did, and they're shooting energy out through their hands with light energy. This is going way back now. Light energy to bless the congregation, to bless the sacred temple, to bless the sacred words of the covenant. And it's only the Kohanim, the high priests, the highest priests, that are allowed to do it. So they walk barefoot in the times of the temple, and they say the brachas for the aliyah, for reading before you even read from the Torah. So when you had that experience, go up, aliyah, aliyah, kohanim, kohanim, that's a direct synchronicity to what it is to transcend as a kohanim, to bring that energy up, and the sacred words of the Torah, the Hebrew, the Ivrit words have light, their energy. And when you read them from that consciousness, you are transcending up the light. And the Kohanim are the facilitators of those to help elevate the rest of the congregation to go to the higher consciousness, called a Christ consciousness if you want, ascension, which is what it is to aliyah. And when you make aliyah to go and return to Jerusalem, it's called the Ir HaKodesh. Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh. Literally, if you go get a Sheirut, which is a taxi cab in Israel, and they say, where are you going? You say Ir HaKodesh, which translates to the holy city. Ir HaKodesh Yerushalayim, the holy city of Jerusalem, or Jerusalem, where the reminiscences of the temple is, where the Kohanim blessed everybody in the original temple, and where it's supposed to be built again, the third temple, a time when the Mashiach returns. And it's at a different location than where it is right now, but it's still within Jerusalem, the Ir HaKodesh, the holy city. And the Kohanim, the Levites, wash the feet of the Kohanim. The Levites, if you hear the tribe of the Levites, there's the Kohanim, which is the highest of the high. There's the Levites, and there's the Israelites. Israelites is like everybody. And then the Levites are like the ones who are right next to the Kohanim. Then there's the Kohanim, who are the highest of the highest priests. And then there's like God, right? So it's the Kohanim feet are washed by the Levites. And it's a whole sacredness that happens in the times of the temple. And then they still do it to this day now. And on Yom Kippur, which is very significant, they fast to do tshuva, which is to purify the soul, to make it go right, to make you whole. To make you whole, we have the peace flag behind us. When you translate the word shalom, right? Shalom aleichem, may peace be upon you, or namaste, I see the I am inside of you, right? When you say shalom aleichem, or melechem shalom is how you respond to it, is peace be upon you, shalom aleichem, and melechem shalom. And then in Arabic, it's salam, very similar. So when you say shalom aleichem and melechem shalom, you're saying peace be upon you. But now if we go into the highest jurisdiction of law, which is the Kohanim, the high priest, which is going aliyah to the highest jurisdiction, which is the covenant, which is trust, right? And you bring it back down. When you translate the word shalom, the true authenticative translation is what? To be made whole. So when you write a trust document or you write any type of document and you're asking for recoupment, you're saying, please, trustee, bring shalom onto me. Make me whole. It comes from Ivrit, it comes from ancient biblical terms, it comes from Aliyah, it comes from Kohanim, it comes from God I am. So who are you, Kohen? Now you have a little bit more information of who truly the Kohanim are and the sacredness to help others be made whole through the transcendence of God I am, the temple, which is your own body, your own temple. Man, the macrocosm is the third temple to be built. And then you have the sacredness to return to God I am, the love. Shalom Aleichem.
Now, if you would, I want to bring that into exactly what needs to be done and what we do in our workshops. Because don't forget, let's look at this term, to be made whole. That's indicative that we're not whole. So that means that we're a duality. How do we meet duality? Because we abandon our spirit self to deal with our human journey, which is involved with intellect. And so it's the intellect, it's the thinking mind that actually creates the division. And so what happens is if you keep things intellectual, you do not own them. You do not know them. You don't know the wisdom of them. And when I say wisdom, that means you don't coexist with the consciousness of those documents. And that's when you could get into trouble. So to be made whole, putting the documents and the repudiation and everything that we're doing in retrospect, we must realize that for those documents to be powerful, they have to live here, not just here. The duality we are, and we know that's the veil because of the fact that that's what causes the conflict within. When you go and you want to do something, how many times that you go back and forth? Well, I guess I want to do it. Maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe my mother will be upset. Maybe my husband will be upset. My wife will be upset. All this conflict within. That is an abnormal state. God didn't mean that for us to be that way. He meant for us to be whole.
Right.
Wholeness does not involve any thought. So watch this. So we find out that the trap here is we have gotten lazy, and that's part of us forsaking God. And that's why we're in this right now. God is bringing us this to remind us, to give us an opportunity to make ourselves whole. Because we go our whole life often and we pass the body and we are not whole. If you're not whole, you don't go to heaven, really. You have to come back here again. And so what happens is with all this journey, and especially now in the repudiation or in the workshop, we take the first morning and we work with people to have a realization and an experience of what it's like of taking document material in the words and transforming that into an energetic experience where the existence, the consciousness of those words actually lives inside you, because that's where you can become one with it. You make it one to yourself. You coexist with it. That's when you really know it. Knowing is being. Knowing is not intellect. If I got it intellectually, I really don't know it because I didn't experience it. It's when you experience it energetically or emotionally that it becomes yours. Now, just imagine the entire planet. And if we've been living in the forsaking of God because we didn't allow ourselves to become spirit whole ourselves, but we lived in the thinking mind, conflict, the duality, we are ready to come home now. And coming home is having everything that blocks the energy, blocks the channel to the highness of God, that we can coexist in the kingdom of heaven. That's when it becomes magic. And that's when the whole room actually begins to bond in such a way without even saying anything. It's pretty miraculous. We have people that cry and like at the joy of it. And so for that to happen, one has to be open to different. One has to be open to feeling uncomfortable until you allow that and it leads to a higher experience of love. Because that's what you are, and that's when we transcend. We're transcending into the love we are. So it's magical that we're talking about this in all different directions because of the fact that, oh my God, it is a journey that is spiritual. And this is what's going to take place the entire planet. It's already happening.
That's right.
It's happening in a big way with actually more than thousands of people. It's approaching millions of people. And I believe this, when this hits critical mass, which it will do, in other words, you're returning to the love. You're returning to the Lord. You're returning to God. You're returning to the truth. You're returning to the existence of super consciousness. When this happens in this way, that's when the whole planet transcends. And the darkness in that is really obliterated. We don't have to lift a finger. It's obliterated because the light is so intense, there's no darkness that can exist. And we're all a part of that. That's so beautiful. So thank you both for bringing that up. That's just amazing. But I just love it. That's why we love doing our workshops so much, because it has become so spiritual. And that's how we do it different than a lot of the other people doing correcting your status. We bring in God in a big way. We bring in the spirit. we bring in that each people experiences what it's like to leave the intellect with this for a moment and enter into the kingdom of heaven, because the kingdom of heaven exists here. And when that happens, that means that the darkness is disappearing. Each people that enters into the kingdom of heaven, there's a darkness that disappears and a light gets brighter. And it keeps on going. And I believe too, our Lord will come right at the time that boom, it happens. But we have to do it, because he wouldn't rob us of the experience of coming when we're not ready.
Yeah.
He's coming automatically when most of us on the planet are actually experiencing him already. And then the manifestation in the physical happens. Isn't that beautiful?
I love that. I love that. Christo, I want to chime in because you and Jason and all of us tonight have said the word transcend probably, tens of times, right? And if you break down the word, it's trans-end. It's ending the trance. We've all been in a trance, that veiled experience of thinking we know when we didn't know. And now it's such an exciting time as we're all rising in this beauty, this love consciousness together at whatever pace we're going. But the kingdom of heaven has already infiltrated planet Earth. And I just want to go back to, I was reading a little chat stream and it warmed my heart. And I just want to really give encouragement to the viewers tonight. There was a man who had gone through the repudiation process. And when we claim our property from those who are intending or who have been enslaving us without us knowing, they're robbing us of our vital life force energy. Some call it chi. That's your essence. And that's what they want, because we're the most valuable thing on the planet. We're more valuable than gold or silver. It's us, it's our essence and that love and that beauty. So when he reclaimed his corrected his status, meaning his status already was kingdom of heaven, sovereign man. But when he corrected it, meaning he alerted the corporate government to the facts of the matter and put it on the record, you don't own me, government doesn't own me, I am sovereign. If anyone owns me, it would be God Almighty. When he did that and he claimed his property is his body. His property is his sweat equity. So his labor, that's our property. He also claimed his children. Because if you don't claim your children, the government or state will. And when he claimed his children and he went through the process, his little daughter, 7 years old, said, "Dad, I don't feel angry anymore." And this was just out of the blue. Like, she doesn't know what he's doing. And then the 9-year-old son, he's observed he had some really strong anger issues and they're going away. It's like they're evaporating. So when we reclaim our sovereignty, our birthright, our unalienable rights, and we, with all due respect, call out the oppressor, that is cathartic and it's deeply healing. And you feel it at a soul level. So it's the act of doing which brings that divinity into the third dimensional realm. So we get to walk in this essence of kingdom of heaven on earth as God intended. So I just wanted to share that.
That's so beautiful, Ananda. Thank you for bringing that in. It was just really, really beautiful. And I just wanted to share too that when I did my repudiation, I cried my eyes out. Yeah. And on most of the workshops, I actually read a great portion of the repudiation, and it's hard for me not to keep not to have the water come again because it's so heartfelt. It's a prayer. It's so beautiful, and I appreciate that it exists at all. That I'm able to state the harm and the darkness that has been done, and what I want to happen in the resolve of that. And send it and let them know and read, yes, I know of your corruption, and yes, I can't be a part of that any longer.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I would like to share a spiritual video here with you guys in our audience so we can continue on here, because I know people are asking some questions, but before we dive into, shall we say, the secular part of our
show, yeah. I never expected this part, ML. This is the first.
I love it. I want to stay with it. I mean, this is beautiful. So this is a music artist that I know, and he's an amazing person.
Stars they wept, the morning sun was dead, the sun of the world was falling, his body on the cross, his blood poured out for us, the weight of every curse upon him. Final breath he gave, as heaven looked away, the Son of God was laid in darkness, a battle in the grave, the war on death was waged, the power of hell forever broken, the ground began to shake, the stone was rolled away, his perfect love could not be overcome. Now death, where is your sting? Our resurrected King has rendered you defeated. Forever he is glorified, forever he is lifted high, forever he is risen, he is alive, he is alive. The ground began to shake, the stone was rolled away, his perfect love could not be overcome. Now death, where is your sting? Our resurrected King has rendered you defeated. Forever he is glorified, forever he is lifted high, forever he is risen, he is alive, he is alive.
We sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah, the Lamb has overcome. We sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah, the Lamb has overcome. We sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah, we sing hallelujah, the Lamb has come. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah.
Wow, ML, what
Wow.
a beautiful voice that man has.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, he's beautiful.
Wow.
Nathan Pacheco.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yep. Nathan
Thanks for sharing that. That was an awesome song.
You're welcome.
Gorgeous, gorgeous voice. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. Oh boy. Sorry.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Oh, whew. All right.
So
Brought
did you
tears
take
to my
people
eyes.
questions?
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, Mahakadish. Wow. Okay. Let's see here. Somebody had a question. How does changing one's status apply to wills and living trust?
Ananda, why don't you take that?
Sure. Changing one's status will double protect you as far as protecting your assets and your family assets. So I want to really just emphasize that we don't actually change our status. We already are children of God, heirs to the kingdom of heaven. What we're doing is we're correcting that which has been assumed, has been wrongly assumed about us. And so when we do that, and then we put that on a court of record, we strengthen our status and our standing. So if you go back to your royal lineage, if you look at the Queen of England, what did they call her, right? Or did call her? They called her Queen Elizabeth. They didn't say Elizabeth Windsor. She was Queen Elizabeth of Windsor. And so when you go back to your royal name, you're going to be John Patrick of Doe, or of the lineage of those known as Doe, or of the house of Doe. So when you step into your correct status and you're living it, that only strengthens who you are when you're holding your trust. And so after folks correct their status, we teach a level 2 class, which is operation of trust. And we actually teach how to create your God trust and why it's so important. Because if you don't have your God trust and proper money, which is actually silver, gold, or rubies, and certain gems, maybe platinum, and your peace flag, You're declaring you're not warlike, you're non-combatant, you're peaceful man or woman. When you do that, you no longer can be assumed to be a pauper. And this is that slavery that they want us all in. They want us all believing that we're paupers and that we're impoverished. And we aren't impoverished if we don't have the kingdom of heaven living within us. I always say, when you have God, you already have the gold, right? But when you step into your correct status and you get that really noted and you start feeling it because you're walking with more confidence and certainty, and then you create your God trust or plan your family estate, whatever, your irrevocable trust for your family planning and estate planning is a beautiful thing. And it just gets bigger, better, stronger, and you're protecting your family and your assets. And that's what the Richie Rich do, you know, and they've done for centuries, and they know it. They just didn't want to share it with others because they were obsessed with greed. They had a lack mentality. They thought that there wasn't enough to go around, but we all know that there's more than enough to go around. So as God intended. So yeah, it's a great, like, it only is going to strengthen your position for the facts of the matter, if you will.
Wow. Thank you, Ananda Oakley. I love that.
Yeah, I was really enjoying the hat, and then my lighting went bad. I said, they can't even see my eyes. I'll try to get it so you guys can see my eyes, even in this horrible light, but that's all right. I'm here, and I'm so happy to be part of it.
Oh, you know what? I always joke with them when my connection starts going wonky, and they're like, "Oh, he's blurry." I'm like, "You're not missing anything here. Trust me, you're not missing anything. Listen to the message."
This is funny.
I do have something. All right. So last week, Jason, Divine J, touched on a gentleman that you guys helped out of Florida, who had been, I guess, facing 12 years for felonies or something to that effect. And he was able to delay his case for 2.5 years. And then you guys helped him do some paperwork. And then his felonies, they disappeared, or I'm just trying to get clarity on that, because this gentleman, he is a friend of mine. He's an attorney, and I love this man. He's a great brother, but he's very analytical, but he's also very he's at a point right now in this truther movement where he's done. He's spent. He just says, let's bring the crap show on and get it done and over with. He's like at that stage. And, he's interested in what Americans in Action are providing assistance to people. But he also knows there are a lot of people who have, I'm trying to do this in a nice way, that have participated in other individuals' platforms to change their status, shall we say. And a lot of people feel victimized, we'll just say that. So he's a little jaded right now. And so, he's wanting to make sure that Americans in Action are not the same as the other individuals who provide similar educational resources, shall we say. And so he really clung on to what you were talking about last week, or the other day, I'm sorry, Jay. And he asked, can you guys display or a link to the court documents of this gentleman who is facing these felonies, and then, did your guys' assistance with your paperwork? And he said there should be actual court files or file documents along with publicly available names of the people who have prevailed using your approach and simply changing their status and filing paper. So he's wanting evidence that, because I've tried to share with him in a loving way that there are many people who benefited from your guys' help in changing their statuses or other legal situations as well. And I've encouraged him. I said, hey, you know what? just contact them and talk to them directly. Ask them directly if you have certain questions. They'll, trust me, they're very honest. They're open. They don't, hide anything. They'll tell you, but he wanted to, and I didn't post it. It was one of the very first comments before we went live. It was just sitting there in the comment section. I didn't see it. It was at the very top of the comments, and now I just saw it. So could you provide clarity on that for this person, or, in regards to that situation, or elaborate? I don't know, Jay. I mean, you do what you want, brother, but I'm just trying to appease my friend here.
Jay, before you begin that, I just want to make an announcement. Because trust law is so sacred, a people has to be in a certain consciousness in order to receive it. Because talk about spiritual, this comes from the Bible, Genesis in particular, because the Bible is written in code. And in applying trust law, you are actually starting to deal or work in the private. So the private doesn't go public. And when you get results from the private, the court never tells you, you won the case, you did this. They never acknowledge it. How you find out is the case disappears. And the court takes it off. And the reason they take it off is they don't want a public record of this victory, because then everybody will catch on. And so what happens is that if you have been served and they've been bugging you and make court cases, and you actually have a case law, you got cases, all that disappears. You're no longer harassed. And you go to see what is happening in the court documents, and nothing's there. Oh my God. So I just wanted to announce that the reason that they don't have it on there is they don't want people to know it. We even have experiences, not us personally, but I've heard of experiences that people chose to go into court in person, in personam, which we don't recommend. We handle everything administratively. And when they began to stand utilizing this trust law, the administrator or magistrate or judge, whatever you want to call him, actually leaves the courtroom, dismisses the case right there, because they don't want anyone to hear about what this people is doing. Jay, please go on from there.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate the attorney's question, and I'll add to what Christo said. But before I get into that, I just want to know want to share that when somebody who is a bar attorney has been practicing the bar for as many years as he has, and I love that he is skeptical, and I love that he's jaded, and I love that he's introspective and also investigative, because that means when you start wanting to get a truer reality of the truth, you start having jadedness, you start having doubt. And that's the very first sign of, okay, it's time to break away from that which you have known your whole life and enter into something new, because you have to realize everything that you know has been a lie, including in the medical field, including in all the other religion fields and everything. So if a bar attorney has been practicing the bar for as many years as he has been practicing, he's been indoctrinated with what the bar system is. The bar system doesn't teach law. The bar system teaches procedures and policy. And those procedures and those policies were created by the Bar Association all the way back to Unidroit, all the way back to the Vatican, which was created there for the king to protect the king, to do nefarious things, to enslave the people. So all the policies that a bar attorney practices, and I'm not saying he's good or bad person, I'm saying the policies in which he's been upgraded in and indoctrinated into practice are there to protect a nefarious purpose, which is to profit and to affiliate with a corporation. Now, having said all that, he has a couple misunderstandings. When he's talking about changing the status and talking about the court case, there are two different things there. Your status correction has very little to do with the operation of trust law, of which we implemented in these court cases. Your status, and we've helped many people who have changed their status and who have not changed their status through what's called the operation of trust, which is inherent within the court system. As a matter of fact, it's the superior jurisdiction, because everything is trust. There's nothing that's not trust. That is the operation of law. It's a derivative of all law is trust. The Bible, where all law comes from, God's law, is a trust indenture. So the dark took legalese and took other type of statutes, codes, and regulations and policies and tore it from the fabric of the purity of the law, which is trust. So when you implement trust, it overrides the lower jurisdictions. Now, the court system has the ability to operate in many different jurisdictions. So when somebody walks into the court and the judge says, "Who are you?" he's not asking who you are as an introduction. "Hey, are you John? How you doing, John?" He's saying, "Do you know who you are? And if you do, present it to me so that I can now know what jurisdiction I'm going to be operating in." So if we coach people to go into the court administratively or live, and the judge says, "Who are you?" we have language that literally changes the jurisdiction from the public, of which the bar attorney has the only authority a bar attorney can do. Your friend, the only authority that he has is to operate in the public. He can only operate with a legal fiction. It is an impossibility for the bar attorney to operate or represent a living man. As a matter of fact, the bar attorney is a derivative of the corporation. As a matter of fact, any case that goes into a court is always the all caps name. As a matter of fact, any bar attorney, it is an impossibility for a bar attorney to represent a child of God. Two different jurisdictions. It's actually a treasonous act. It's actually a violation of contract. And it's actually a violation of the doctrine of parity. Basically, the doctrine of parity is only like can represent like. The court system deals in the legal fiction, which is why when a summons, a ticket, a mortgage, anything that goes into the court always has the all caps name. It's a derivative of the trust, which is the birth certificate, the Social Security. It's a business transaction on paper. So when we coach people to get back into the living, we coach them into speaking in trust, which makes you the beneficiary, which makes it a beneficiary of those legal fictions, meaning the birth certificate. The bar attorney, because of his indoctrination and his training, may not even know anything about this, because the policies and the procedures that he operates off of is always in the public. It's always the corporation. It's always the all caps. And the trust overrides that. Now, the court, again, can operate in multiple jurisdictions. So when they say, "Who are you?" if you speak a language like "I am a son of God, and I'm here by a special divine appearance," say, or "I'm here to address this trust matter and recognize the trust in the trustee, I'm a third party interest," that already eliminates the bar attorney. It's an impossibility for him to even participate in that matter. And so through the administrative process, when we approach it through the trust indentures and the trust language administratively, the court now has been shifted, like Christo was saying, from the public into the private. So by definition, they cannot put what's private on a public record, because now they've jumped jurisdictions and they violated trust and they're in breach of trust, which is a high crime. But I do have documents, and these guys do have documents, that if you were to put the docket number in prior to working with us, and you go on the court website, which is public, because prior to working with trust, it was a public matter, okay? And then you put that docket number into the court, you will see the case, because it's public. And then it'll say what the status of that case is. Now, when you transition and you transform that court through the administrative process by submitting the proper documents in this trust application using the correct language, and you do a continuation of this administrative process, sometimes it's one communication, sometimes it's three, sometimes it's more, it depends on the matter. But as soon as that particular matter has been resolved and moved from the public to the private, you go ahead and you take that same docket number that you did a week prior, and you go onto the court website. It'll say no record. So you take a screenshot of that, and that's your evidence right there. Or no record or case closed. I have my own personal documents that I show people at our workshops, because we teach what we have implemented in our own lives. And so I have my own documents, several of them, that I show people and say, look what I got and look what it says. And here's what it says. And on one particular document, it says case closed. I never went into court. I never spoke before a magistrate or a judge. I never had a bar attorney. I approached the matter through trust, implementation of the correct operation of law, the right language, the right operation. The court went, oh, this is who this individual is, this man is. So when they say, who are you? If you say, I'm John Smith, all caps, and I'm here to defend myself, great. It's another day in business for the court. And you just got yourself fined, charged, and now you have a bar attorney. And this system goes on. But if you know how to speak and you stand, and if you have changed your status, you can say, I am a living man. But then again, if you've changed your status, and this is where your bar attorney needs to know, you would never set foot in a public court because you don't contract with them. It's, as a matter of fact, it's treasonous. As soon as you know who you are, if you're a living man on the land, a living woman, a beneficiary, synonymous, you by definition would never go into that court because you would be committing treason. Just as when the court recognizes who you are, either administratively or when you speak the right language, the court would never handle itself in the normal operations because then they would be in treason. So in my own personal cases, when I've got them closed, dismissed, or whatever it's been, the bar attorneys who were attempting to contract with me would never know how come it got dismissed. As a matter of fact, the court would have to say, sorry, I can't tell you, it's in the private and you can only deal in the public. So having said all that, it's a much deeper operation that we get into and we coach people through it. Even bar attorneys will educate, because like your friend, he would not be privy to this if his whole career has been through the process of the public corporate side. And he would not have ever learned this because, like Christo was saying, it's sacred and it's a higher jurisdiction. And the whole point of a bar attorney is to rinse and repeat and keep the currency, meaning the financial system of debt and credit, right, fulfilling that system through the operation of credit, debit, society. So when you come in and you bypass that through operation of law, the court will yield and they have to make it go away. And the evidence that you have is you go online and what was once there now literally says no record. I actually did it for myself for a matter. I went on the computer the other day just to follow up because there's a process. And when I put my information in, the court said no record. That is your evidence right there. They're not going to say why it disappeared because they can't.
Right.
It'd be a violation of trust.
Well, let me ask you this, Jason.
Yeah.
So I want to go one step further in this because the other day I'd mentioned to you, but I didn't have a lot of context. So I'd mentioned to you, it was brought to my attention by a bunch of people in my channel through different messaging that there's a gentleman, I guess his name is Kirk Pendergrass. And I guess at one time he was teaching people, how to become state nationals. He was associated with Field McConnell. So he's kind of well known in the truther community. I don't know the gentleman myself, but it was just brought to my attention because a couple of videos were shared with me. And so this same individual that's an attorney, he shared this with me. Well, that was last week. He said, I followed Kirk Pendergrass last year, and now that he's starting up again, I'm watching again. He always based his information and ideas on the strict letter of the law. I listened to his 2 recent lectures and had listened to some of the educational series before, and he knows the law. I had told you before that I had issues with simply, quote, changing your status by filing a document, end quote, and that I thought it could lead to a loss of some rights under the 14th Amendment. Kirk bases his initial premise on the, quote, I am man, creation of God, end quote, as the starting point to our inalienable rights, which derive from God and the U.S. Constitution, does not grant these rights, but merely protects them. He also argues that citizens or state nationals derive their obligations and duties by swearing an oath, which all judges, politicians, and others who serve the Fed or state entities. One point that this guy made was that one point he made that was excellent was that you always appear on a special and limited appearance if brought before a court and argue, quote, I am man, creation of God, end quote, which is a statement that cannot be refuted.
That's right.
This shifts the burden upon them to prove you are not and to prove that you are acting within their system like a citizen or a person or an employee of McDonald's or any other corporation, not trying to convince you about the path you are on with American inaction, but I will be going through all of Kirk's educational videos, which are excellent. So I've seen other guys talk about the 14th Amendment, that all you need is the 14th Amendment. You don't need to change your state national. You don't need to go through that process. It's a bunch of crap because the 14th Amendment protects you, and that's all you need to do. So I shared that with you because I know I'm going to get hit with this question from other people who are seriously checking into this because, you have, guys on the opposite side of the fence that are out there putting this material out there. So I'm just making this public because I know that you'll be able to answer this question as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And let me just preface this. There are many paths to the promised land. Okay. There are many remedies that one can apply with court cases or anything. And somebody said, hey, confess my crime. My situation, and I have a few of them, dealing with third-party debt collectors that were in violation of certain things that they shouldn't be doing. I've done multiple different things. So the comment, confess your crime, it's a breach of trust, is coming from not fully comprehending what it is that I'm saying. Because when you apply trust law, when you apply these operations that I'm speaking of, you're coming from a place what's called clean hands. I just want to preface here, we choose to work with people who we choose to work with through educational purposes and entertainment purposes only and guidance, right? But if somebody's done something literally wrong, the definition of a crime is causing harm to somebody. And if they're done nefarious, and we talk to people all the time, and I personally have spoken to people over the last week who I've steered them another way because they were coming with clean hands. As a matter of fact, we've had conversations recently with this. So if there is truly a crime, we're not going to try to help them get out of something that they need to be accountable for. Because when you are sovereign, you are responsible for whatever it is that you do. Now, when you're going through the operation of court, because what they're doing is to create profit, and because what they're doing is to try to bring people into contract, and because what they're trying to do is go fishing 90% of the time to keep currency going so that they can keep what is called commerce alive, they'll use you as a surety to profit. Now, when you talk about the 14th Amendment, you talk about that it converted you back into slavery and you only need the 14th Amendment. Listen, when you go into court, and we've had this experience with people, the judge literally has spoken to the people and said, yeah, I see you as a living woman. In this case, it was a woman. Well, that didn't get her off because that's irrelevant. You can be a child of God. You can be a living, breathing man or woman. That doesn't matter in commerce. All that matters, are you surety or are you the beneficiary? Because a living, breathing man or woman can still be surety, and they'll take that living, breathing man or woman if they don't know how to speak, if they don't know how to speak the right language, and they'll throw that living, breathing man or woman in jail because they'll use that woman's body as the surety to perpetuate their commerce. Because every time a case goes into the court, they capitalize on it. And there is money that's being happening. It's a business transaction. So what we teach people is to realize what's happening in that system and then know how to navigate through that system so that you're not used, your physical body or even your paper is not used as the liability or the surety for whatever they're trying to collect. We turn it back around through the operation of trust of how the system truly is designed and was created in the Constitution prior to 14th Amendment. Two biblical principles of which case when the judge says, who are you? If you know who you are and you know what the operation of how the system works, they will yield, whether you do it administratively or live. So with that case with the woman, she continued to speak differently, even though he recognized her as the woman, because she knew through our communication with her and our education that it wasn't over there. She had to continue to move forward to the point where the judge recused himself, literally recused himself with a grin, smiling, because she figured out the game, and he passed it on to another judge who was in a higher pay grade than him. In other words, he yielded.
Jay,
and we helped her through the rest of the process.
Let them know about there's 2 court rooms. There's 2 courts in every courtroom. Tell them about that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when you start realizing how to live, and this becoming a state national is just another tool that you put on the record that it's ironic because you put it on the record that you're now going in, you put it on the public record that you're now going into the private, right? So that the public officials realize that you are no longer the surety, you are no longer these all caps name, but you can utilize the all caps name for your benefit within the system, right? So we teach people how to do that. Because that exists, every courthouse, and by the way, we talked to our sheriff, I will just bring this in. The courthouse locally, because it's a business entity, we said, Sheriff, you need to go knock on that courthouse door and speak to the woman or man in charge there and ask to see their business license. And if they don't have one, then you probably should shut them down because they're operating business without a license. Or if they have an exemption, please show it to us because then we should be able to use that exemption too because nobody's above the law. And if the court doesn't have a business license, which they don't, we know the answer. We were educating the sheriff on that. Then why do all these other businesses have to have a license?
Now, with that, just so you know, that the court system, you're thinking, oh, well, that's the law and they're above the law. No, they are actually a corporation. Go ahead, Jay.
And with that, they have to abide by it. And you can own, and this is another way of how you work with the courts, because it's a business. So if it's a business, they need you to contract with them. And if you contract with them, which is what a license is, you've converted your right, which is protected by the Constitution, into a privilege. And therefore, you've contracted with this corporation. And therefore, as a result of that, you now become a slave voluntarily, i.e. the 14th Amendment. But if you go before the 14th Amendment and you know how to operate with that, then you can go into the court system and you can convert it back to a de jure court, which is a constitutionally Article 3 court, which operates in the higher jurisdiction. And if you know how to communicate the language, if you're ever in there, they will take you to a private room that exists in the court, which does not have a flag, a war flag with the yellow fringes on it, which is denoting of being a captured flag and a corporate admiralty law flag. They will have a real flag in there. And then you have to know how to stand there. But you don't, and we have people who have gone into that room, right? But they won't tell you about that because A, it's the general reason is they don't want the people to know, but B, through operation of law, and this goes back to your attorney friend, they can't, because then they would be in treason and in violation of operation of law, bringing that which is private into the public, right? So they cannot do it. Mm-hmm. But you can go on the computer after they've closed the case, and you will see that docket number no longer exists. What was there yesterday, and it just so happens that I have my receipt from the post office that they received my document, because you do everything with the tracking to prove that they received it. And they got it, let's say it was Monday, I put my court, you look at the court case and it's there. And then Thursday, they have the document because you have your proof of receipt from the post office. And then Friday, you go online and all of a sudden it's gone. That's not a coincidence. That means the court is operating in the capacity of right law, and you knew how to function accordingly within that law, and you submitted the proper documents with the proper language, with the proper infrastructure, implementation of it all, and they followed suit. Therefore, you go online Friday, whereas Monday you had a case. Friday, they'll say case is closed, or there's no record, or case been dismissed. And we have many of those documents, including the guy in Florida. And then there's a follow-up. There's a follow-up process with that you do, right? So it's all administratively, and it's all doing the operation of law. So we say in our workshops, listen, the courts don't do anything wrong. If you don't know how to play the game, well, then you're going to get railroaded to a predetermined outcome, right? Which is not going to be in your favor. But you are incompetent. So when they deem you to be incompetent, they're not lying. It's just like if you've never had the trade of being an electrician or a plumber or an HVAC, and all you've done is gardening your whole life, well, then you're incompetent to what an electrician or a plumber or an HVAC does. So if the bar attorney has never been educated in what it is to be in the private, because his whole indoctrination from day one of law school was to perpetuate currency and a cycle through this thing called the court system, then all of a sudden he's going to go, well, I need to see the public record and I need to see this. And I respect that tremendously because I get it. But now he's got to unlearn what he has learned. And therefore he's incompetent in this area. And we've sent many documents to attorneys before and they yield.